Thank you all for having me. It's good to rest after my long journey. But on to why I'm here. What do the three of you know about the bandit leader known as Harken?
We saw a bandit leader with an emerald sword, but never heard much of him. Is that who you're talking about?
Yes, that's him. The name our people have given him is Harken. He appeared around 15 years ago and rallied the barbarian and bandit tribes under him. He seems to appear here and there, but even from the bandits we've captured and interrogated, they know little of him. It seems he came to power by challenging and defeating most of the leaders of independent barbarian tribes. He is responsible for our loss in the war. Between the Haunt's attacks in the west and the barbarians' attacks in the north and east, we could no longer hold out.
Obviously we want to help defeat him, but how exactly does this involve us?
That's a good question. I need a strong group to draw him out and slay him.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the 17th episode of the Medieval Rimworld series. Before we get into Lydia's plans of attacking several bandit bases, I want to introduce a new mod we have in the mod list, that being the titular royalty mod. This will basically allow us to give titles like the Empire has in basic Rimworld, but to people within our colony for our own colony. I really just wanted to get this because I want to build a throne room for Ryo, and this way we can actually give him a title which will let him sit on the throne. Now to get into the episode, opening up, we can see Herring playing a beautiful ballad for Ryo on his piano. This is so romantic and cute. I love this part of the Romance on the Rim mod that we added a couple episodes ago. It seems as though this event as well has pushed Ryo to propose to her. Oh, how wonderful. And she has accepted, as they are now engaged. I am very happy for them. They might be moving a little bit quickly, but we do have a marriage spot ready, as it could be any day now that they decide to tie them on. Moving on, today we'll put a bit of focus on crafting since we did so much construction in the last episode. We're going to start off with some new types of armor that we discovered in the last couple episodes, that being the armor of the Valiant, that Ryo is going to take for himself once he's finished. And I must say it suits him well, but perhaps more importantly, it gives incredible sharp and heat armor, which on a planet of swords is very, very useful. I'm considering getting these crafted for all of our warriors here in Morgan's Hold to keep them quite uniform. You can't really see it too well under Ryo's fur cloak, but I'm still really happy with how it looks. Moving on, we would set up a couple of these melee training dummies that I've wanted to try out for quite a while. Once they were ready, Mart would do some training with little Nadine, teaching her some of his signature sword skills. Meanwhile, Danders was getting stuck into crafting something at the art bench, despite his lackluster art skill. Stick around to see what that is. Or stick around to see if this elemental rift that's just opened up crushes us and destroys us. It would spawn a couple of water elementals that were actually pretty underwhelming. Once again, our people would show just how powerful we've become. We would destroy the rift extremely quickly. Getting some goodies from it, like a couple of little gems and stuff, nothing too crazy though. We will be using these as we're expanding our magical potential this episode. And speaking of magic, Ryo had an inspired creativity, and as our best crafter, I had him set to work on a weapon. This is a weapon that I've wanted to craft for him basically since the beginning of the series. That being this legendary ruby longsword, a Durmor? I wouldn't mind a more fitting name in the comments if anybody has one. Of course, he would equip it and show it off with his new armor. While you see him showing it off, I will say I want to get some more of these weapons crafted today, or in the next couple of episodes of the series. But in the time being, we will look at a couple of construction projects, the first being this book creation room in our future library, which we don't have enough paper for all of the decorations in, but I will get it finished a bit later. I still think it looks pretty cozy as it is now, and it will be a great place to write a novel or two. Our next construction project would include the grand pillars that Danders had been crafting at the art bench earlier. They take a construction skill of 15 to make, although I think it also factors in art skill, so these came out as normal and good quality. I don't think we've got anybody who's really good at art and construction, so these will have to do for now. Regardless, it seems that we have completed the initial setup of our throne room, and prior to doing this, I had used the new titular royalties mod to give Princess Lydia the Crown Princess title, as after her father died during our kingdom's fall, she was never coronated as queen. Now this is important as today she is going to be part of a little bestowing ceremony where she will give Ryo the title of Count, for his work in building a strong resistance to the Haunt dynasty and bandit clans in Morgan's Hold and the surrounding regions. As our kingdom potentially reforms, we will have our own little sort of area that Ryo will sort of be the ruler of. He'll be the count of this sort of region, which may become a little bit more important in the future. A couple of days later, we got an infestation in the prison where it seems the bugs are going to be breaking through in Calathor's cell. I would send Ernest over in hopes that there weren't too many bugs so we can kill them quickly and prevent Calathor from dying. But you may ask, Templar, isn't Calathor a traitor? Why would you and the characters want to save her? My answer would be that despite Calathor's treachery, we don't want to execute her. Rather, we want to keep her as a prisoner, so perhaps she can eventually repay her debts to us and to our society. We're just that sort of kind-hearted colony. Although, with the way the bugs were acting, I thought she might die in there. I did sort of back off for a little while. I thought maybe the bugs might begin starving and then we could go in. But I decided instead to eventually engage the bugs in a head-to-head fight where, to nobody's surprise, we were victorious. We would go through and smash all of their hives after the fight. Now, in the wake of the infestation, Calathor would develop multiple infections in her left arm and ear. Now, while we could have removed the body parts, I felt perhaps this was just time to let her go. Once again, she was a traitor, but we were trying to be kind to her despite her deeds. We decided it would be best to give her a river burial, that way her body could flow off to wherever it really needs to go. But after a somewhat sad occasion, we would have a very happy one, that being Ryo and Herring's wedding. These two have moved extremely quickly from meeting to beginning to date to engaged, now married, but I am super happy for them, and so was Apostas obviously, as he would join in the marriage ceremony. I think we had everybody here in the colony except for maybe Bryn, who I believe was in the hospital. And once it was all done, everybody would party the night away. Mart would get into a fight with Leo, one of Lydia's guards, but it was only a little scuffle, so they didn't ruin the celebrations. And what a great night it was. Ryo and Herring would now be sleeping together, and fingers crossed, there might be another baby in the colony soon enough. But now that this very happy occasion has passed, it is back to business, and it is time for us to go out and begin raiding some bandit camps in the hope to draw out the bandit leader known as Harken. But before we go out, I thought it might be cool to go through Lydia's 4 guards, as they are quite special characters. Starting on the left here with Mike, who is a 32-year-old royal guard who is also a gladiator. He has some pretty cool abilities like the sprint and grapple abilities that will allow him to pull enemies in and run quickly. He is level 86, making him by far the strongest of the physical classes from the Rimworld of Magic mod that we have seen so far. Next up is Flower, who is a level 97 fire mage. She has almost maxed out all of her abilities. She's super powerful. She's easily the most powerful magic user that we've seen the entire series. I can't wait to use one of her Firestorm abilities in battle. She also has a pretty cool flame wand that shoots fireballs. Next up we have Leo Clay, and he is quite well named as he is a geomancer. He is one of Lydia's bodyguards and has been for most of his adult life. He is a level 84 with the Meteor ability unlocked, which I believe just drops like a giant meteor from outer space, as well as all of the other abilities that the Geomancers have. These ones also look super cool and I'm pretty keen to try them out. Last but not least, we have Yotrick, who was a hunter and is a woodsman, quite fittingly. He is a level 75 hunter, making him the weakest of the 4, but still quite strong. He and Mike, of course, also have some of these super cool named swords as their weapons, making them quite powerful. And yes, before you say anything, I did spawn these guys in with Lydia sort of as an excuse for trying out the classes, but it also makes sense that, you know, the The crown princess of your kingdom probably has some pretty powerful bodyguards. And to give us the opportunity to see them in action, we will now send them off, as well as Ryo, Lydia, and Ernest, for a quite concise and magically gifted group to attack the first of the bandit bases. The journey to the first base we'd attack was only a couple of days, and upon our arrival we would spot a small walled town. It doesn't look like there are any kind of defensive towers, so we would approach, stopping for a small discussion before we would begin to advance. Getting into our battle positions, Apostas would strike first, alerting the town inhabitants of our presence, prompting someone who looked to be another sort of bandit leader to exit the gates. They would charge us, but they didn't make it very far as Flower's fire blast stopped him in his tracks. And after a brief moment, their forces would begin to stream from the city, attempting to charge us, only to be met by a barrage of fire, as well as a literal meteor falling on their gate, which cut any more of them off from exiting. There were also magical bolts and spirit wolves hitting them left and right. All of this is to say that the first wave was over before we knew it, and it was really nothing compared to our power. The only damage we had taken was a couple of scratches that Ryo had got. He would move back to stop the bandits who were still able by Leo's meteor. We would have to breach the city walls. However, it seems that the barbarians had found their own way out. They were really ready to kill us. I am glad they chose to fight us face to face rather than run, although I wouldn't have blamed them for running away. Especially after this. Just watch for a second. Yeah, I'm starting to see why Lydia only needs 4 bodyguards. Mike and Yotrick would make quick work of a couple attempting to flee before beginning to scout out the city ahead of our larger group. They would begin searching the houses and buildings, and they managed to find a couple of interesting items that Ryo and Lydia would inspect. Those being Radiance, the sanctified sword. This weapon looks to be possessed with some sort of spirit that is bloodlusting, making it not so good as the wielder might end up lusting for blood of enemies and friendlies alike. It still does a crazy amount of damage though, which is pretty cool. There was also a sapphire staff, Raya, which although it's not quite as unique as we've seen sapphire weapons before, this will still be quite useful for one of our people. Moving on, we would come to a building set in a different part of the town. Now, this looked like a small temple, but what inside was not religious in nature, unless you consider our captured Templar brothers and sisters religious. We would run to their sides, making sure they're alright. Those dastardly bandits, they must be stopped. Harken will be held responsible for the deaths and trauma of our Templar family. Our resolve is strengthened. We will find him. But for now, we must return home to drop our people off before we head back out to another city. Now, since I don't want this episode to go on for 40 minutes, although I'm sure some of you would enjoy that, I'll just show a quick montage of cool moments from the other towns we captured while I ramble on a little bit. I had a lot of fun playing around with these guys, particularly Flower. Her firestorm ability is absolutely insane, as you've already seen. The same can be said for Leo's meteor ability, especially since you can get cool ores from it, so it's helpful in combat and just in regular gameplay. Obviously both of these serve different purposes, one being a bit of a more wide range attack, while one does a lot of damage to a small space. Both are just super cool though. Same with Mike and Yotrick. I loved playing around with some of their combat abilities. I didn't get to use them quite as much, but it was still cool just to see some of the other things that the mod has to offer. It is a little disappointing that most of our people won't make it to these super high levels with this crazy amount of power, but outside of the narrative elements of Lydia obviously having some powerful guards, this was also a great opportunity for me to show you guys some of the stuff that the map mod actually has to offer, and it gave me a chance to play around with it, which was really fun. But finishing up with my little sort of ramble session, we are done with the attacks for today. So let's take a look at everything that happened in Morgan's Hold while our attacks were taking place. First off, we had a strange spider-like creature wander in. This is known as an animalisk. It seems to have some animal-like powers or affinity, so naturally we decided to tame it. And we would have Talvia, who, being a Sonic, also has some sort of attraction to anima magic, try to become its master through training it. And speaking of Talvia, or should I call her Ginger, Yes, that's right, she now has a name that is much more easier to pronounce, and I have user Sanjuan Park-N7E to thank for that. Now, I'm very sorry if that was the incorrect way to say your name. I had to use Google Translate for it, as I don't know any Korean, so I may be wrong. Once again, sorry if that was incorrect. Although I do want to thank you for this name suggestion. I love it. I think it's a cool name for her, but I would also like to mention that her full name is actually Phoebe Ginger Calvia, as I also wanted to use this suggestion from user MuckMuck3403, who suggested Phoebe. You guys always spoil me with names, so much so that I have a hard time choosing most of the time. Once again, I just want to say to everybody who suggested something, I appreciate all of your suggestions. Moving on, we decided to bury the woman we found at the bandit camp within our new crypt, which is still a work in progress. You guys will get to the next episode, hopefully, so that her soul could be properly to rest. And yes, she will rest amongst our people forever now. Next up, we would get to work on the final major section of the castle, that being the library, which I'll probably try to clean up a little off camera. I think it looks good, but it still feels a little bit empty, even when I'd finished off this initial build. I really do love the little reading and meeting room we have in the bottom right, as well as the little book writing / restoration room that we have. I think it really brings it all together. And finally, we would have the last growth moment for Nadine. She has grown up so quick, she's finally an adult. And with that, she would get some passions in shooting, plants and animals, as well as the tough trait to round out another great fighter in the second generation, which is once again expanding, as Nora is pregnant once again. I think this is just another good reason for us to move Dux' room away from his parents. And while we're speaking about pregnancies, Herring is ending hers, as Nora and Bryn would help her give birth while the law watches on. Rido would miss this as he is out fighting at the moment, but Herring is still well taken care of in this moment. And she and Ryo are blessed with a beautiful baby boy that I was trying to think of a name for, but realized I'm not good with names, and you guys can just give me one in the comments section. So please, if you have one, leave it down below. Uncle Vlor would hold him by the fire as Herring gets a little bit of sleep after her very long labour. When Ryo returned home a few days later, he would meet and play with his son for the first time. One day, little one, you are going to take up the mantle as leader of Morgan's Hold. But for now, just enjoy some time with your father in your crib. You probably noticed some of the decorations we have here in Ryo and Herring's room as well. We got this cool dragon head decoration from a quest, I believe, while the display cases with Ryo's falchion and Dux' note are from a new display case mod I added midway through this episode. I think they look awesome. They're also a great way for us to store relics that we find throughout our journeys. And one place that we will be storing such items is going to be in the long-awaited Wizard's Tower that will take the place of our old cabin, which we're finally removing. I would also get some initial plans for this building. It's not really Wizard's Tower, it's kind of a Wizard's complex, but you'll have to wait until next episode to see how that turns out. And on that, we are going to end for today. As I mentioned in the last video, we are sort of coming into the later game, but I do want to reassure you all, there's a good 6 to 7 episodes left to go before we end up the series, and there's other series planned after that. So stay tuned and stay excited. And with that, I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.
Lord Baikal. Ryo and Morgan's Templar band has begun attacking bandit outposts in the northeast. We have reasons to suspect that Princess Lydia is aiding in this effort.
I believe I know where they are headed. Have the barbarians prepare. My plans are finally coming to fruition.
Midori, my love, I miss you so. I wish you were still here by my side.
I do.
Midori, I'm glad the Haunts gave me the pleasure of dealing with you. Any last words for your husband, Duplat?
Platt, Moraville holds the key.
Thank you all for coming. I'll let Ryo lay out the plan.
After discussions with most of you, I've decided we will be heading for Morrowville. We believe Harken will appear there. It's time to know what happened to Dux, and it's indeed time to put him to rest.